I get the wonderful privilege of introducing the first keynote speaker for our conference. And to introduce her, I'm going to use an article I found in the New Zealand Herald a few months ago. So this keynote is used to being the first. She's the first in her family to go to university. She's the first Pacifica person to graduate with a PhD in English from the University of Auckland, where she currently works as the Associate Professor in the English, Drama and Writing Studies Department. She's the first Pacifica woman to be appointed New Zealand's Poet Laureate. She's made the office of the New Zealand Order of Merit in 2019. She's even performed for the Queen Elizabeth II at Westminster Abbey. Her first collection of poems, which is the Fast Talking PI, won the Jessie Mackay Best First Book in the New Zealand Book Awards. Her second collection, Dark Sparring, is critically acclaimed and positions her as the vanguard of contemporary Pacific literature and one of the most important poetic voices of her generation. I could have kept going with the list of her awards and achievements, but then I started feeling underwhelmed with my life. But personally, she's a real inspiration to me. You see, it's timely that John Pulu, who is the co-host on Tangata Pacifica, which is a show I watch avidly, and I can't help be inspired by all the big names that come on there. You see, in the Pacific worldview, it's sometimes rare to see a big Pacific name out there, and sometimes you might see them in sports, sometimes you might see them in music, but it's kind of rare to see a big Pacific name there doing her work with poetry and literacy, and I think that's amazing. So, if you can join me in the pati pati and welcoming Dr. Selina Tusitala Marsh.
Just a little bit of product placement. Talofa lava, kia ora koutou, bulavanaka, malualele, kia orana, whakalofa lahi atu, namaste. I must say, if I may, Rachel, that was one heck of a presidential address. Through telling your own story, you tell all of our story, and one thing I will take away, perhaps a little bit faultily, is I am LIANZA. So thank you to LIANZA. Thank you to the Pacific Information Management Network, or PIM. Judy, that was a very heartfelt sharing, 10 years on, and here you are helping to convene LIANZA's conference. And I also want to thank you folks. We are LIANZA because when Eleanor Mo'asilimati approached me to be the keynote, I was really pleased and honoured. And Eleanor said, so, what is your speaking fee? And I said, darling, you can't afford my speaking fee. I was only joking. Not really. So, came up with the idea. I thought, I've got like 475 of the best, brightest, connected minds with books today. So if I issue the challenge that you tell me what book you could suggest to get any one of my three sons reading, any one of them reading, that would be worth my while. And you have given me, as my koha, this stunning collection of books aimed at very reluctant readers. I've got a 17-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 20-year-old, and they think books are for propping up their footy boots. So I'm going to be filming them having a look at their books, and I can't stage it, and if they're disinterested, please don't be hurt or feel hurt. And with the books that they don't choose, I'm putting those books into boy spaces. And what I mean by that is rugby league clubs and rugby clubs. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Because actually, that's what family is, right? It's reaching the masses, but if the ones that are nearest and dearest to us aren't reading, like it's caused me to question my whole identity as the New Zealand Poet Laureate. All right. What inspires a kid? What inspires an adult? What creates curiosity? And what I like to call an open-armedness in life. A poem by Sam Hunt. School Policy on Stick Men. Should I do it my Sam Hunt voice? Would that ruin it? Okay. It's said, no, I won't. It's said that children should not use stick figures when they draw, and yet I've lain all night awake looking at this drawing here of orange men, stick figures, every one of them, walking up a crayon mountain, hand in hand, walking up my wall. They're edging up a ridge, their backs against the mountain, pinned against my wall, and every one is smiling. They know the way a mountain laughs, especially crayon mountains made of brown. They know they're not allowed, these orange men. And my response 2 decades later, from Tightrope, which is available in the exhibition. Okay. Orange crayon stick figure man. On the occasion of reading with Sam Hunt at the Parnell Rose Gardens, only to discover that with was employed euphemistically to describe sharing the same venue but performing at different times. Sam, Sam, my orange crayon stick figure man, I love you because you are what you do. And you did what you said. Back in '82, I was 11 when you came to our Avondale school. You looked drunk, but you were nobody's fool. Like the unsung Pied Piper, you played your own tune. And we followed, and we followed. And shirt hung like a rolling stone maxim, flung over black exclamation mark jeans, puncturing our poetry rules forever. And I loved you. And we followed, and we followed, and we followed your D.B. Brown words, your hill-rolling slurs, your breaths, your chants, your lamentations, your strides, your quivers, your gesticulations. So I want to beg your pardon. I know you never promised me a rose garden. But here we are, and I'm doing what you did, and I'm telling. Sam, Sam, my orange crayon stick figure man, we'd only just begun when you coloured in our tongue, waxing oh so lyrical, tragical, comical, Kiwi Shakespeare sharing in our school hall from one rant to the next, to the one after that and that. Sam, you one cool cat, and I love you. Thank you. So over the next couple of months, I'm hoping to take a road trip to visit Sam Hunt in the Kaipara and take him the Poet Laureate Toko Toko, the Tusitala ka Pura. And we were meant to meet a few months ago where he wanted to introduce me to his own kauri toko toko or walking stick, which he said was made by a man with no birth certificate. Unfortunately, the day before I was due to leave, he rang me up and said, "Ambulance has just gone. I'm not getting him that bastard, but I'm not feeling great, so let's delay our visit." So he's hoping that in the next couple of months, weeks, I feel, I can go and take him the toko toko. In September last year, I visited Sam Elworthy, my publisher at Auckland University Press, and I gave him a 50,000-word memoir that I had been writing about this glorious taonga, this national treasure, carved by Jacob Scott from Matahiwi Marae in the Hawke's Bay. He's been carving them since the Poet Laureateship Award came into fruition in 1996. First sponsored by Te Mata Winery Estate and then taken over by the National Library in, I believe, 2011 when Michelle Leggett became our glorious Poet Laureate. We hold the award for 2 years. Jacob carves a toko toko after a kōrero with each of us, and each one is unique. We're the only ones in the whole world to do this, and yet very few people seem to know about it. So I made it my mission to spread the word quite evangelistically, so I will take this everywhere. It even meant that I didn't correct the people who wrote the program when they called me the current New Zealand Poet Laureate, because I aren't anymore. I'm having a bit of difficulty handing over to the gorgeous David Eggleton, based in Dunedin. He's going to be a stellar laureate. So anyway, I was talking to Jacob at the end of the making, and he said, "Listen, it comes apart because I know that you're going to take it to the people. I know that's what you are meant to do. And it comes apart in 11 pieces." And I said to Jacob, "Was that deliberate?" And he said, "No, it just felt right." I said, "But I'm the 11th Poet Laureate, and it comes apart in 11 pieces." And so that gave me the idea to begin writing a set of short tales based on each of these pieces. And you'll hear a little bit about the top piece, which is a fue, in a wee while. But just to illustrate to you the power of creative synchronicity, there is a stainless steel piece in this toko toko. And I said to Jacob, "Why have you got this one sole stainless steel piece there?" And again, ever enigmatic, "Oh, it just felt right." I said, "Did you know that my father had a company called Lifetime Stainless Steel in the 60s? And it was that factory where my relatives from Samoa and Tuvalu came and gained employment and were able to set up their own families when they migrated here from the 60s onwards? Did you know that my father was selling stainless steel sink benches and shower tubs in our pier in the early 60s? And that's how he met my mother on Beach Road?" He said, "No, but it sounds about right." And so I had gone to Sam and I told him about this memoir, and he was very excited about it, and we were like, yep, let's go. And I was walking out the door when I said, oh, never mind. He goes, "What?" I said, "Oh, no, I've just been mucking around. I've just been playing with something." He goes, "What is it?" And I said, "Well, it's on my iPad." And I showed him what has become Mophead, how your difference makes a difference. And Sam leapt on it. And for me, Mophead does numerous things, one of which is to get the word out about the New Zealand Poet Laureateship to our littlies. But it is a memoir written for all ages, and I'd just like to read something about it, and then something really special. Okay. So New Zealand Fashion Quarterly approached me to see if I would like to write a piece for their magazine, because next month's edition is the body and Mophead is about hair. So I wrote and adapted this for our keynote. Mophead is a story about having too big hair. It's a story about how I grew from being teased as a mophead, a gollywog, and called Pippi Blackstockings at school, to becoming the first Pacifica New Zealand Poet Laureate. Mophead is my kryptonite story. What others framed as my weakness was actually my superpower. When I found voice through poetry, when I stumbled on peoples whose difference made the difference, like our own New Zealand bard Sam Hunt with his wild ways and wild words, my too big hair morphed into my crowning glory. This change and this book didn't happen overnight. In one tiny exchange, which you'll see at the end of the book, I saw the narrative arc of the story, me, arms outstretched, clutching a smelly old mop in one hand, and the New Zealand Poet Laureate Toko in the other. In typical Mophead fashion, wild, bespoke, and out of the box, the story came not in a poem or an academic article, but in this quirky, hand-drawn tale for all. I'm a self-titled Pacifica poet scholar, someone of Pacific Island descent whose creative and critical work are entwined. These are plaited sinnet strands. This name tells my story, and one that has taken almost 15 years to piece together, to create and edit through telling tales, mine and others, in university and most definitely outside of it. I'm in my element, aka Sir Ken Robinson's definition, when I take poetry into unpoeted spaces, schools, community centres, libraries, corporations, government sectors, monarchical spaces. One of my guiding life principles comes from the Greek root word for poetry, poesis. It means to make. I'm in my happy place when I help someone make something, most usually a poem. An integral part of helping people make poetry is to make it accessible. This means that I, often seen as the mecca of all things poetry, but in actuality am just often the only human form of poetry people encounter. I need to be accessible. This means being confident enough to let my hair out. It's a common enough metaphor. Mophead, the book, shows pivotal moments when I've been told to tie your hair back, to conform. It shows me rebelling, changing not just the course of my career, but my relationship to myself. I now love this wild, crazy, stick-out, too big mop of mine. Hopefully others do too. This year, me and my Mophead featured in British Vogue when modelling for Amelia Wickstead's new Woolmark line. Kate Moss was on the cover. And I said yes to Amelia because she is 1/4 Samoan and 3/4 Italian. We also launched Gucci's new line of poetry-inspired Zumi bags. And even though they wouldn't give me the $7,000 dress that they put me in, nor the $5,000 bag they made me hold, once they saw my trail running feet, they decided to give me the $1,000 pair of heels that I wore. The most radical act of fashion and of self-love is to love the thing that makes you stick out. This book sticks out because I wanted to do it the Mophead way. And its message is simply, if I can do it, you can do it. I'm not a trained artist, but I've always loved doodling. Anyone can doodle. It's a great leveler. In my work, everyone has access to the line, the written line and the drawn line. So when I showed an early draft of Mophead to Sam, my AUP publisher, he loved it. But the question was raised, should a professional illustrator do the drawings? I said, yeah, nah. Mophead's all about doing it your way. And then I worked really, really hard over the coming months to prove that my way was better. These quirky drawings are an integral part of the story. Since I was a kid, I've made my own books. Problem was, I'd never finish them. They were never perfect enough. There'd always be a mistake and I'd have to start again and again. Mophead's hair started out as a mistake. I scribbled it out and started again and again, trying to get the perfect line. And then I realized mistakes are made for making, and this scribbled, vibrant, swirling chaos is her hair. This mess was perfect. It's in Mophead's very DNA, and guess what? It's in yours too. So I'd like you to raise your hands if you've ever read a story out loud to a child. And keep them raised if you've done that in your role as a librarian or information person connected with books. Lovely. All right. So you can lower your hands down. So I'm just so pleased to give you, we are LIANZA people, your own story time. So if we can dim the lights, I'm going to read to you Mophead. That's the kind of response we love. Okay. Mophead. For those who stick out, how your difference makes a difference. She drew me too. When I was 10, I was teased for having big hair. Not just thick, curly hair, but wild afakasi hair. Afakasi equals being Samoan plus something else. Mum, Dad, me. I got thick, wavy hair from my Samoan Tuvaluan mum, and thin, curly hair from my New Zealand, Scottish, English, French dad. My hair was so wild it defied gravity. and didn't come back down to earth. So big it wouldn't fit under hats or caps. It broke the cute bows and clips other girls wore. Kids called me Mophead. I was tall, skinny, and brown, like the mop in our garage. It smelled like old socks. That bucket says Avondale spiders. West. The mop had a head made from hundreds of cotton threads and a long body made of wood. Being called Mophead made me feel bad. I tried to ignore the teasing, but it just got louder. I cut it. Some kids called me Fuzzy Wuzzy, Gollywog. I wore it in plaits like Pippi Longstocking. Some kids called me Pippi Blackstocking. So I tied it back in a tight bun. No one called me anything then. I was the same. But we're not made to be the same. At home, I'd let my hair out and be a champion rider. Go, Black Beauty! A chart-topping singer. Ain't no mountain high enough. Or a record-breaking explorer. Come on, Ed. Coming. But at school, it was a different story. Then, one day, a famous poet visited our school. Hi guys, I'm Sam. He was tall and thin. He had wild hair and wild words. They know the way a mountain laughs. Sam was not the same. He loved being different. The kids loved it too. Stay free, kids. Bye, Sam. Write me a poem. Do you think he brushes his hair? Could I do that? He actually did bring a beer bottle on the school grounds and a teacher had to escort him back to the car. We were the same kind of different. Tall, thin, wild hair, sings words, red car, dog called minstrel, That's when I decided I wouldn't be tied back. I was going wild. I wore my hair wild at high school. Mophead's been made head girl, but she didn't even campaign for it. And she's not in proper school uniform. Really? I wore it wild at university. Look at Medusa rocking her curls. Doesn't she get her head chopped off? I searched for other wild women. Maya Angelou, Toni Morrison, Zora Neale Hurston, Alice Walker, Bell Hooks, Gloria Anzaldúa, Angela Davis, Audre Lorde, Sojourner Truth, Chandra Talpady Mohanty, Barbara Smith, Arlene Griffin, Sonia Sanchez, Cherie Moraga, Vanessa Griffin, Grace Nichols, Queen Lily Uokalani, Queen Zalote. You saw the move to the Pacific gradually, right? I discovered the wild words of Pacific Island woman poets. Konai Haluthaman from Tonga, Mamoi Maliatoa Van Reiki from Samoa, Julie Makini from the Solomons, Grace Mera Molisa from Vanuatu, Haunani K. Trask from Hawaii. I wish I'd met these poets when I was at school. Maybe others still could. So I wrote a PhD thesis on them. Go, Doc. Can't quite fit the cap. Malo lava, whakatalofa atu, ka pai e hoa, kia manuia. I wrote lots about their poetry and wondered, could I do that? Fast-speaking, cross-out, talking, Pacific Islander, cross-out, PI. It's your first book. Maybe you shouldn't like rhyme so much, but I like rhyme. And the award for Best First Book is Fast-Talking PI. People liked my words and invited me to do cool stuff. Now that's all real and true. Even Spin-Off voted me in 2017. I was voted with for Best Hair. Wow, you've been invited to perform a poem for the Queen in London. Cool. It's formal. You'll need to tie your hair back. How did you memorize that long poem? It's my job, Your Majesty. I'm a poet. Yes, I suppose it is. Well done. Wow, His Highness in Samoa wants to hear the fast-talking PI poem. Cool. It's formal. You'll need to tie your hair back. This is Tuia Tuatupua Tamasese Efi. Tusitala, you're our fast-talking chief of poetry. Just doing my job, Your Highness, I'm a poet. Take this fue, you may need it one day. Wow, you've been invited to meet the first black US president, Barack Obama. Cool, it's formal. You'll need to tie your hair back. How did you get poetry past my security? It's my job, Mr. President. I'm a poet. In that case, keep it up. I had taken the Mātua Toko with me, much to the chagrin of his security team, because they suddenly saw that the walking stick was potentially a concealed weapon that I could gouge his eyes out with, but... Wow, you've been chosen to be the New Zealand Poet Laureate. Cool. It's formal. You'll need to tie your hair back. Yeah, nah. Dr. Marsh, you're the 11th laureate. Are you the first woman? Nope, I'm the 5th woman. Dr. Marsh, are you the youngest? Nope, I'm the second youngest. Are you the one with the biggest hair, miss? Gotta love St. Joseph's. What do you think? I'm also the first Pacific Island poet laureate. What do you have to do, miss? Share poetry. Don't you already do that? Yep, but I get a toko. A what? Aotearoa, New Zealand is the only country in the world to give their poets laureate toko, carved Māori walking sticks. Poets give artist Jacob Scott special things to carve into their own toko. Matahiwi marae. His t-shirt says, I love Haumoana. And those two silhouetted figures in the back are John Buck from Te Mata Estate and Matua Tom, the elder of Matahiwi marae. I gave Jacob the fuwe. When Samoan talking chiefs speak, they whisk the fuwe in the air to shoo away flies, real and imaginary ones. And inside the flies, you've got words like jealousy, lies, hate, envy. When Jacob unveiled his creation at the Poet Laureate ceremony, I recognized an old friend. The toko had a hair made of hundreds of coconut fibers and a long body made of wood. Everybody was amazed. We sang, danced, laughed, prayed, chanted, drank, cried, ate, recited. After the celebration, I brought my toko home to Waiheke Island. Puhi, the deckhand, had been waiting for us. She had tears in her eyes when she saw the toko's beauty. I began telling its tale when, ha, look at that. Look, Mum, that lady's got a mop. How dumb. It was a boy. I tried to ignore him, but he just got louder. It's a big hairy mop. What's she going to do? Mop the boat? Ha, ha, ha. True story, I tell you. I turned to face the boy. It's not a mop. It's a toko. A wa? Do you want to hear a story? Okay. When I was 10. The end. So I will be signing copies at lunchtime. If they don't sell out. If they do sell out, check out tusitala.nz. I can't believe these words are coming out of my mouth, but it's really great. I'm nearly finished, but lest I leave you in too much of a warm, fuzzy place, let me share another story with you. It is August of this year. I'm being hosted and farewelled by the National Library. It is a beautiful ceremony. Schools are there, they haka me, they dance and sing for me. There are speeches, beautiful speeches. One especially beautiful by Chris Zika, who's sitting in the front there. Thank you, Chris, for your te reo. And of course, my then boss, who's no longer my boss, Bill McNaught. And it was a very moving thing. And it finishes about 10:30 at night, and I've got a very bright pulatasi, our traditional Samoan wear on, I've got my hair like this, I've got my toko, it's lightly raining, and I want to walk back to my hotel. So National Library, I'm walking through Parliamentary grounds, and then I forget what the street is, but there's a street just opposite Parliament, and I'm staying at the James Cook Grand Chancellor Hotel. By now it's like 11:15 at night, and I get to the glass doors, and I pause, because I see that there are 5 Pākehā businessmen at reception. And they've obviously just come from the bar, and I have to get past them to get to the elevator to go to my room. So as every woman would do, right, when you're in that situation, you breathe in, head back, shoulders back. As every brown person would know, you've got to do double duty there. And so I clutch the toko and I go, here goes. Open up the doors. This group of businessmen turn and look at me as one. And one of them says, ho ho, here comes the cleaner. So I've written a short story about this experience with 3 endings. The first ending is this fabulous ending where I stride up to this group of businessmen. I turn the steel notch of my toko, out flips a steel blade at the bottom of it, and I proceed to gut the speaker from groin to throat, and his innards spill out on the marble floor, and I do not wipe it up. What I ended up doing, because I had so many thoughts going on, it's like I've just come from, I'm in Wellington. We're like a spit's throw from Parliament. I could have been a Pacific dignitary. But hell, even if I was the cleaner, you don't talk to people like that. And so when I walked past the group, they kind of stopped me, and I said, do you know who you're speaking to? And then they kind of looked. And I said, I'm the New Zealand Poet Laureate, and this here is a taonga, your national treasure. And they all kind of looked sheepish and some like this. And I began walking away because I remembered that Bible verse about throwing pearls before swine. And the leader came up to me and he was like, oh, wait. And he started fumbling with his chest and he pulls out this pounamu and said, I've hunted for this for years. And I said, you don't hunt for pounamu, you receive it. And then I just walked away. Yeah, that'll be one of the tales in the memoir. So, a story that is as relevant today as ever. So thank you so much for your attention and your support and for this wonderful invitation. Whawhatai tele lava.
This will probably be the first time we do this, but we'll be doing it throughout the conferences where we do our best whawhatai. So if I can just get everyone to stand up and we will sing our song. Ua whaawhetai, po! Wa mari e mata